This module focuses on connecting with and managing stakeholders and on developing the project communication plan. It also recognizes that the communications plan is a component of the overall project management plan. When I ask experienced project managers what a project management student needs to learn, one of the first things I hear is, teach them how to manage meetings. That topic is covered in other courses in depth. However, I will end this presentation with a couple of tips on managing meetings. So, let's get started. Your stakeholders can make the difference between project success and project failure, so it's critical that you understand how your project processes and product affect each stakeholder. While your project is in process, will it disrupt a given stakeholder? Or will its success mean that another stakeholder will lose power? You'll want to understand their perspectives and try to mitigate the negatives for each of them. It's important to realize that stakeholders also can be internal, say a functional manager who is in charge of one of your team members, or external, a supplier of materials for your projects. To prioritize your stakeholders, you might ask, how involved is this particular stakeholder? How much communication will she or he expect to have? How much control does this stakeholder have? Could the person actually cancel the project? Demand major changes? Does this stakeholder see the project as terribly urgent? Might there be additional schedule pressure? To prioritize these stakeholders, you might rate the aspects proximity, power, and urgency on a scale of 1 to 3 for each of them. And then you can generate a score to determine which might be the most critical. The project management plan is the basis for executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing all project work. It is an approved formal document including plans for scope, budget, schedule, risk, staffing, quality, and others. In other words, the overall plan includes a number of sub-plans. The starting point in the plan is the project initiation documentation, the project charter being an important part. And this is key. Stakeholder, including team member relationships, are built as the project plan is developed. Let's switch gears and concentrate on one portion of the project plan now, the project communications management plan, which answers the who, what, when, where, and how of project communications. It also involves communications from and to stakeholders. Each communication must have a legitimate business purpose. For example, ensure that meetings aren't being held simply because they are scheduled and that all participants need to be included. The plan focuses on acquiring and disseminating knowledge about expectations, progress, and lessons learned, for example. The plan also must take into account multiple users with different and often competing requirements, all of which may be difficult to analyze and capture. Items that are taken into account in developing the communication plan involve, first, the purpose of a given communication. For example, advising on project status, requesting changes, or notification of milestone completion. Second, structure. Are there internal forms that must be used or adapted, or some other required way that information must be conveyed? Third, methods. In this case, we are really talking about communication channel. For example, a presentation would be formal face-to-face group communication, while a check-in between the project manager and sponsor might be informal and via telephone. Of course, there are many, many other methods that can be used for communication in a project. Finally, fourth, there is timing. Should this communication occur at regular intervals, such as daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly? Or are they less regular, as in project charter complete or project management plan complete? Now, to move on to the example communication matrix at the bottom of the screen, it can help with plan development. It focuses on the stakeholder who must communicate with the team. It also includes timing and method, as described earlier. Other key elements involve an owner to ensure that the communication actually takes place, and it asks whether the team is to share information with the stakeholder, such as a change order request, or if the stakeholder is going to deliver information to the team, such as, say, material order status with the purchasing department. I'm not going to say a lot on project meetings. I will say that the plan, do, check, act, otherwise known as PDCA, process is a good one to follow. For example, as a project manager, you should plan, that is, prepare and disseminate the agenda ahead of time. Do, conduct the meeting, ensure that no one participant dominates and that quiet members are encouraged to participate. Prepare minutes, or better, delegate to a note taker. Check, that is, evaluate the meeting, which we'll discuss shortly. And finally, act, complete task in between meetings and ensure that others do likewise. At the end of the meeting, it's helpful to note action items to perform by a specific date. You also may want to conduct an evaluation of the meeting with good points and elements that might be changed by using a plus-delta template. It might look like, well, each person provides at least one good thing, that's the plus, and each person provides one thing to overcome or change, that's the delta. Debbie might say, I really liked that so many of us communicated openly on the potential changes to the project schedule. As an area for improvement, though, I think it could be helpful if we rotated the meeting location so that we could take turns with convenience.